Techlandia is recorded at the Central Office on the East Side in Portland. Central Office is a one stop for all your office or meeting needs. Check them out at centraloffice.com.
Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of Techlandia, Tao's regular podcast series. I'm Skip Newberry, President and CEO of Tao. And we're pleased to have with us as our latest guest, Marty Kagan, who's the CEO and founder of one of the fastest growing tech companies in the region, Hydrolix. Marty, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Skip.
So I'd love to have you kind of provide some context for our listeners. I was wondering if you could take a few minutes just to kind of walk us through your professional journey. Take us right up to Hydrolix and present day.
Sure. I started working in tech back in the 90s, moved to Portland in 2007. I started a company here called Sodexis that we later sold to Citrix, and turned around and started another company because I enjoy the journey, enjoy the adventure of starting things. And Portland's, for me, the last, I don't know, 16 years, 7 years, has been a great place to be an entrepreneur.
Awesome. That's fantastic. We'll dig into that a little bit more as we go later in the conversation, but want to start with a little bit more information on Hydrolix. So, I was wondering if you could tell me a little bit about what are sort of the problems that Hydrolix solves for its customers.
Yeah, in some ways, Hydrolix feels like a spin-off of Sodexis. Sodexis was doing a lot of run measurement and load balancing, and we were generating around 23 billion records a day. And it was like writing a blank check to Google every month. Like just the cost of ingesting and storing and searching all that data was really a drag on the business. And my co-founder, who had been my lead developer of that company, came to me after the acquisition and said, I think we were doing it wrong. I think everyone's doing this wrong. I think there's a better way to do this, to deal with this type of problem, this kind of high volume data. And I was skeptical. You're probably wrong. There's a lot of smart people in the space, but on the off chance that you kind of squinted at the problem differently, it's a big market to disrupt, and how much would it cost to build a proof of concept? And so we kind of just gave it a shot and saw some really good early results and just kept going. So it's been now nearly 7 years since we kicked things off and really focused on this problem of companies that are ingesting large volumes of data and wanting to keep the data around, actually use the data. So we see a lot as if you're generating a million records a day, it's not really a big problem. There's a lot of tools out there that are great, but when you're generating hundreds of billions of records a day, it really becomes painful, and you start seeing trade-offs people are making around, well, we won't keep everything, we'll only keep 10%, or we'll only keep it around for a day, and we'll throw things into cold storage, and lots of trade-offs, lots of compromises people make with their data just to manage cost. And the thought was, if we can solve that, if we can sort of change the economics in a way that just lets people ingest everything, search everything, keep everything, there's a lot of interesting business problems to solve, especially at that high end. So we went to market focused on things like media and gaming and financial services and ad tech and industries where there's a lot of data and people are really struggling to deal with it. And today we've had about 550 customers that have adopted Hydrolix for all their data, but for the use cases where it's really a good fit and we can really solve some big problems.
I think a lot of folks have been, obviously paying attention to the rise of AI, and I think a lot of executive teams have been under pressure from boards to, do something about it and show that they're adopting and deploying. But it really comes down to, a lot of the underlying issues of how do you organize and the data and make sure you've got the right data for what problem or use case are you trying to utilize it for, and then you can start to think about what are the systems or tools that we want to put into place. And it sounds to me like Hydrolix is really helping companies tackle a whole set of issues there around kind of organizing data and making sure it's in the right form and getting it ready for AI. So how much are you seeing kind of like the rise of AI drive a lot of adoption and interest in Hydrolix?
It's early. I'd say we have a lot of customers who are interested in talking to us about it. At the moment, we don't necessarily position ourselves as an AI company, but more as an enabler. We definitely see that the demand for data, the need to keep data around longer, the need to be able to get to all your data, to be able to extract it more cost effectively is driving a lot of interest. Before it was like, well, we'll throw data away. We'll just keep summaries of the data, or we'll put it into cold storage. So it's there if we need it, but we can't really use it. That was sort of okay before, but now AI is driving these new business needs. Like, I can't afford to throw data away anymore. I can't afford to just put it in cold storage. I really need access to this data to build the models to drive the decisions. And so it's putting more pressure. You've got this one force of financing. You've got to get our costs under control, and then you've got product engineering saying, "I need all the data," and IT in the middle being like, "I can't solve for these two things." And so it's creating a great opportunity for us to come and say, if we can change the economics and we can deliver a better technology that doesn't have these trade-offs, and if you can keep all the data and you can use all the data, and you get all your data hot, and it's not going to cost you as much as you do it cheaply, it sort of solves for everything. And now you can satisfy all these pressures, and that's helped us a lot. I think that it was a long slog. It started the company in 2018 and didn't sign our first deal until 2021. So that long period is sort of getting the product right, but also understanding the market, and then seeing these changes that are sort of like, oh, there's this opportunity now. And we had out there with the message around, we can change the economics, we can solve these problems. It was like, it wasn't a nice to have, and now it's like, oh, I need to have this. And so we're seeing faster time to trials, more success in the funnel, bigger deals, lots of upgrades. Like, there's just way more demand in the market that that we're able to solve. So it's been nice for us and enable us to really accelerate our business.
That's really great. I mean, I think there's a little bit of a misnomer out there, especially with early stage startup founders, that you have to get into the market as quickly as possible. That may be true to the point of like being able to test certain assumptions. It sounds like you took a few years to finally really hit your stride. And I'm wondering, in terms of any advice that you would give to someone just starting out now as an early entrepreneur, how would you say, with hindsight, like this is how to navigate those early years?
I think bootstrapping is important. I think keeping your expenses low and really extending your runway as much as you can. Just realizing it's just going to take a while to get it right, um, and just being patient. It was hard. You gotta, as a founder, you gotta understand that people are going to come and go in those early stages because there's a lot of uncertainty, and so you have to be able to keep the company rolling, moving forward, even as you're constantly changing tires. As you get bigger and more stable, you suddenly see a lot of people have been here for 5, 6, 7 years. We have a lot more retention. People are more patient. People are excited and less sort of cautious. In the beginning, there was just a lot of churn, just a lot of uncertainty. But managing through that uncertainty, keeping momentum, keeping things moving forward, and just keeping your burn down as much as you can. We were really cautious on our steps.
Are there any surprises that you encountered in terms of like interesting use cases that you saw from some of the early customers? Or it sounds like you had a thesis of like, okay, we've got these areas where there's a lot of high throughput data, et cetera, in terms of sectors you're focused on. What were the ones that were
Yeah.
surprising?
I think we constantly got it wrong. I think, we thought it was all about cost savings. Cost savings. We're just going to sell on cost savings. That's all people care about is cost savings. And cost savings definitely gets you in the door to like have a conversation when you're a nobody. That why should I talk to you? But that's not really what people are buying for. They're buying for faster time to insights. They're buying for being able to answer questions they could answer. They're buying for like price, cost, and performance retention are all kind of the same coin. But when you give somebody the option of like, do you just want to save money, or you want to reduce your costs, or do you want it for what you're spending today, be able to keep data for a year instead of a week? And they're always going for like, no, I already got the budget. I can't afford the cost to keep growing linearly, but I'm happy to spend what I'm spending today if you can give me a lot more for my money. And so I think we often got it wrong in terms of understanding what people were really going to buy for, what they really cared about. And then we found within the most interesting use cases have been this melding of like, this data by itself is interesting and this other data over here is kind of interesting, but you put them together and like, oh, now I can like answer questions I never could answer before. And that's really been fun to discover with customers. What are the combinations of things together that have that like 1 + 1 = 7?
That's really interesting. I mean, have you seen, you've got this interesting career trajectory. You were at Akamai a while early on, and, then with, Sodexis and, all very much, infrastructure companies in terms of different development environments and, opportunities for, kind of lots of data, right? And lots of sophisticated infrastructure that you're dealing with on a regular basis, supporting eventually a lot of clients. And I'm wondering, are there certain things that you've seen that have drawn you back into this space? And what would you
Yeah,
say like the future holds? Like what keeps you excited?
I like scale. I think the one common theme across my career is like doing things at scale. So, Akamai was all about handling the biggest websites in the world. I spent some time at Fastly as well, kind of revisiting that space. The Nexus was all about doing things at massive scale. Hydrolix is we I think we put out a case study about what we did with Fox for the Super Bowl this year, where we were ingesting a terabyte a second of data, or terabyte, I'm sorry, terabyte a minute of data. Doing things at scale is fun, and that we've already seen other customers doing things even bigger. And so being sort of the place to come when people need to do things at scale is it triggers all my like happy endorphins, like solving these really big problems. And AI is just driving more demand, and data is getting bigger and wider and fatter, and people want to keep it longer and do more with it. And so we are constantly challenging. My engineering, we do some stuff. We're doing some investments in some new capabilities and new anomaly detection services and higher level value we can add. But a majority of what we work on is really around reliability, scalability. Like this was great when you're talking a terabyte a day, but now you need to be able to handle a petabyte a day or 10 petabytes a day. And so constantly just rethinking how we do things to make sure we continue to scale with our customers' needs.
That's really cool. I mean, over the years, I've heard from a lot of technologists that they love challenges that relate to being able to develop solutions at scale. And even in a smaller market like the Portland area, you can still get opportunities with companies that are solving huge problems truly at scale. And I'm wondering how much of that plays into sort of your recruiting strategy for talent.
We're very flexible. We have today about a quarter of the company is in the Pacific Northwest area. But we got folks, 30 people in Argentina. I've got 20 in Ukraine, 20 in the UK, uh, a dozen in Singapore. We've got sales and support all over around the world. We tend to, my senior team is fully distributed. I've got VPs in London and Paris and Florida and Texas and all over. So I think we try to find great talent here in town when we can. And obviously there are some, we covered a lot of like alumni out of New Relic because they've got really relevant experience and skills. And I've got, I think, 25 people in the company now that this is the second or third or fourth time we've worked together. Uh, but at the same time, we're not limited to like we're not only hiring in Portland. If we can't find the talent we need or the skills we need, we go global. We find people all around the world, and we built a remote first culture so that much as we have this wonderful. I'm in Kiln right now. We have this wonderful co-working space in the southeast that we have about 5 offices in today, and it's great when people are around. And tonight we're doing a takeover of Pork No for the whole team. But
Nice.
I do love being able to tap into global talent, and then what we don't spend on real estate, we just blow every year on a big all hands meeting. We fly everyone in from all around the world, and we're going to be in this year. We'll be in Victoria, BC, in January. About 190 people.
Excellent. So I'm wondering, like with a pretty distributed team, how do you maintain sort of that element of culture, right? I mean, so you've had a couple different companies where you had, a significant portion of people, I would imagine, kind of all in the same office. Like, how have you seen things evolve from an executive or management standpoint in terms of how you're kind of
Well, you're catching.
setting and yeah,
You're catching me. I just walked out of an hour-long all-hands meeting. We do monthly all-hands calls with anyone who's awake. We try to rotate between mornings and evenings so we can catch our folks in APJ. I travel a lot. I'm heading off to Singapore in a couple weeks.
Mhm.
So some things are just about getting the physicality of getting everyone together, flying people in. But a lot of it is also as I'm going back to like hiring people that I've worked with before that I know that I trust and using like seeding the region. I've got a great leader in EMEA who I've known for 20 years. I've been a wonderful leader in APJ that I've known for 20 years. Building the teams around them because I know how they're going to treat their people. I know they're going to instill the same values that I have, the family first culture, and I can trust them to build out the region and know that they're going to instill that sense of community and connection for their folks. And then there's just the hard work of just being available and doing a lot of morning calls with Europe and a lot of evening calls with Asia, and and keeping the company feeling flat and not hierarchical, and making sure everyone feels connected and understands what we're trying to do.
I love that. And you've now done two different startups in the Portland area in Oregon. And like, what made you decide when you came up with Hydrolix to also essentially launch the company here?
Well, I'm here, so that's part of the strategy is like
That
what I
helps.
need. Yeah, like starting companies is all about like how do I optimize for my interests. In like there aren't I can't find a company doing what I'm excited about in Portland. Then I need to start a company doing what I'm excited about in Portland. And so that's a big piece of it. I think the mistake I made last time is we raised all of our money outside. Our seed round was in Europe, and our Series A was in the Bay Area. And I didn't really engage with like Portland Seed Fund, Oregon Venture Fund, and the local that community. And so I got a lot of help last time from other CEOs, Puppet Labs, Elemental. Like I got a lot of help from individuals, but didn't really plug into the community. So I really wanted this time to make sure that we made room in our first round for PSF and OVF, and really a chance to engage more with a larger set of the local Portland tech scene. How right? And there's a lot going on in Portland that I want to be part of, and I wanted to be not just for the sake of ego, like just to be like a known company, but just to really tap into the talent and be part of the conversation. And I do spend I spend invest in helping other startup founders and coaching. And again, there's a bunch of us get together for dinner every quarter just to chat and support each other and just trying to help support the whole Portland scene.
That's great. And I'm wondering too, like how much of it was, you had New Relic with its engineering and product headquarters here for a long time, and then you have more recent companies that have expanded here out of the Bay Area, like CPacket, also in the observability software space. Do you almost see there's like a sort of a mini cluster of companies focused on observability software here? And does that help the company in a sense? Was that a
Oh yeah,
consideration in terms of the talent base?
the talent, being able to tap into local talent is always a huge plus. And it's really fun when uh, to you get somebody out of New Relic who knows a lot of other people in New Relic, or and not necessarily ex New Relicers, and being a company, being at the stage where we were growing right as other companies were doing some layoffs was like great. I mean, it was nice to help people land with a great job as they're trying to figure out what to do next, but also for us just to tap into people who already has a lot of context, already understood our space. Our Franz, who's our chief blog writer, had been writing blogs at New Relic, and it was just one of the easiest. Like, just keep doing what you're doing, just do it for us instead. And so being able to land people like Franz has been wonderful. And yeah, there's a lot of. I think when I moved here in 2007, the city was hungry for experienced like Bay Area professionals. So there was just a lot of. There was a feeling like the local talent pool was sparse, and now
Mhm.
that's totally changed. Now it's totally changed. And whereas before it was hard, like in 2007, it was hard to convince somebody to move to Portland for work. Cause like, yeah, but if this job doesn't work out, what am I going to do after that? Like, where else would I find a job? And now that's like, it's not a problem. Everyone, there's a lot of people coming to town. We hire people all the time who are like, ooh, I always wanted to move to Portland. I could use this as an excuse. Maybe I could finally, relocate to Portland, give it or try it out. Actually, one of our sales engineers moving into a new apartment in 2 days from Seattle. I'm super excited to be here. So, no, I think the whole environment's changed, and Portland is recognized as both a great place to live, but also a place that really is a vibrant scene.
Awesome. That's great to hear. And I'm wondering, like, sounds like the company's doing incredibly well, lots of growth. You've got an incredible culture, great team. Like, what, if anything, keeps you up at night these days?
Employee retention is always the thing that keeps me up. The thing I'm most worried about. Like, how do you make sure the people who've been here now for 6 years still feel really connected and engaged and aren't like, wow, the company's gotten big. It's not, I joined this 12-person startup, and now it's a 200-person environment. Still feels like a startup compared to Intel or Nike, but it's definitely gotten bigger. We just hired our first HR leader. So how do you make sure everyone still feels really engaged and connected, and we don't lose all that institutional knowledge? We've had really good success to date in keeping people, and we've got some of the first two people we ever hired are still here and still seem to really be enjoying themselves. But that's the thing I really think about the most is how just workplace experience and culture and people and making sure everyone still feels that it's a fun place to work and a place where they feel supported has lots of opportunity for growth.
That's great. So in starting Hydrolix, comparing to like the Sodexis experience, like were there certain things that you did at Sodexis where you're like, okay, I'm not doing that again if I have an opportunity to do another startup, or were there things that?
No, no. I'm laughing because people, when I started Synexus, people are like, "What's your goal?" I'd say my goal is to not go out of business. That was just like, if I can not every day I wake up, and I haven't gone out of business, I've beaten the odds. And with hydraulics, my answer is to make only mistakes.
Yep,
That was really the goal every day. Just yeah, I made lots of mistakes. I'm trying to make only ones this time. It's been
I love it. Kind of a culture of continuous learning, at least in terms of your your own approach to startups.
yeah,
I love it.
not making mistakes would just be foolish. That would just that's not realistic. But at least not making the same ones. There's a bunch of things. The one that comes to mind is I got bogged down a lot in my last company, just dealing with the minutia of running a company,
Mhm,
and didn't have enough time to focus on the strategic things that I wanted to focus on. Being involved in sales being number one, but partnerships, so being more strategic with my time. And so I hired a fantastic chief of staff, Sarah, who in some ways really runs the company so that I can focus on the business. And it's just
mhm.
been, that's something I learned looking at other companies and kind of how were they, how other CEOs, how are they scaling better? Having not just an admin, but really like an executive business partner, having your COO, someone who really can, uh, can be your right hand has been tremendously helpful in terms of me managing my time better.
I love that. Is it are you familiar with like the EOS model where they've got like, visionary plus integrator is kind of a secret sauce in terms of like where startups can quickly scale? Does it sound kind of like along those lines where you have someone who can kind of take where you're seeing things need to head and yeah, we'll operationalize this. Here's how we get from point A to point B with the team.
Yes, yeah, we've hired program managers in every department now. Sales, marketing, engineering, support. They all have a program manager, and so one of the things Sarah does is kind of create that glue, getting all the program managers together. Uh, as much as she runs my senior staff and is all my VP, she's also kind of getting making sure all across the board the program managers are all coordinated. And they're all working on their own things within their own domain, but they're also working on cross company initiatives to make sure that we've got and just having that
That
army
makes sense.
in
That makes
place is.
sense. So that's great words of advice for folks who are just starting out and looking to
I
find
wouldn't
ways they
touch.
can quickly scale.
Yeah, I wouldn't touch that for the first 5 years, though. I mean, to be clear,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
that's a luxury
Yeah,
that
yeah.
it was really as we're starting to, getting moving towards 100 million revenue, and my board started saying, this is where you have to start worrying about tripping on your own feet. That you need to start you need more back office, you need business systems, you need things that are gonna like right now you're processing 100 contracts a quarter, and that's great. But if you tried to process 200 contracts a quarter, could you do it? Like, what's going to start to fall apart? And so getting the program managers in place and putting more emphasis in business systems and FP&A and things are just I would not spend a dime on those first 4 years. Not because
Right,
of value,
right.
like that's just where you start burning money. Like putting those things in place at the right time. We're like, now we need that because now we want to make sure we don't plateau at 100 million, but we just keep going to making sure the organization can scale. So
That, that's
the
so
right tools, the right investments at the right stage is kind of all the key uh,
is
to not
wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so great. I mean, you mentioned like the first few years, it was just like, okay, let's focus on product market fit, lean, 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 right? Let's not burn too much. And then once you found that, it was like, okay, we've got a lot of folks who love to build technology that scales, and now we need to build an organization that scales. And that's where, you focused on the bringing in the right people, project managers, chief of staff, et cetera. That's
Oh, yeah,
fantastic.
we weren't ready. I will say honestly, last year we grew eightfold. We were totally unprepared.
Yep.
And and in some ways that was the right thing to do, right? Because if we had been prepared, we would have been overstaffed when we ahead of time. And
Mhm.
it took us a while, we caught up. But I think in some ways you kind of want to play that edge. Like if you're overscaled ahead of time, you're probably wasting money. And but if you don't catch up, if you don't keep up with the growth, then you can also, you can damage the business at the wrong time. So I know, I think we rode that wave pretty well. But now we're just trying to make sure we don't, again, as we're growing, we don't overgrow and we just kind of keep ourselves always just like a little bit short of what we really need.
Mhm. Yep. Lean and mean. I love it. If we think about like, how do you how do you essentially stay on top of all the sort of trends and information out there, kind of recognizing signal from noise. Like, do you have a particular strategy as a CEO that allows
Yes.
you to
Yeah.
be effective in that
Yeah.
sense?
I hired a great CTO. I recruited this guy, Todd person. He was one of the co-founders of a couple of their database companies. He really understood the space. He had sold his last company to ServiceNow, and I had reached out to him when he first got acquired and said, "Hey, if you ever want to go and do something else?" And he called me up end of last year saying his handcuffs were coming off, and he was thinking about maybe wanted to see if I was still interested. And it's been fantastic, and it gives me the ability to. I'm not worried about the trends in the industry and not have to think about that, and just having somebody I trust to come and say, "Yep, got it. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to. This is what we need to focus on. This is what we can just. Um, we'd love to do everything, but we can't. So let's prioritize these two things." How it's been working.
Awesome. Very cool. And in terms of like any recommendations you would have for folks, stuff that you've been reading lately, podcasts you've been listening to, like anything that's top of mind?
Absolutely. So Julia Austin was an early mentor of mine. I worked for her back in the early aughts at Akamai. She was later she taught Harvard Business School for many years. She just published a book. It's basically her Harvard class in a book. It's called After the Idea: What It Really Takes to Create and Scale a Startup. And I went and ordered a copy for all of my VPs. I'd recommend anyone looking at. It's just a great book and great insights from Julia's career.
I love it. After the Idea, Julia Austin. That's awesome. Cool. Well, thank you for that. And as we wrap up, any final words of wisdom you'd like to leave our listeners with?
No, I appreciate the time, Skip. I'm really grateful for everything you've done for the Portland community and helping. I mean, between you and Rick, really holding the PDX tech scene together and giving those of us who are trying to do things here visibility to what other people are doing here, and lots of great events and activities. And it really feels like we're never going to be Silicon Valley, but I don't want to live in Silicon Valley, and so it feels great to have the balance of being able to live where I want to live and still feel like I'm part of a vibrant scene.
Awesome. Well said, Marty. We're so grateful that you're part of the scene locally and doing what you're doing with Hydrolix and your team here. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy schedule to spend it with us today.
Pleasure. Cheers.
That's a wrap on this episode of Techlandia, the podcast, where innovation meets insight. If you enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to follow us, leave a review, and share it with your fellow tech explorers. You can follow us at techoregon.org for updates and more tech-fueled content. Until next time, stay curious, stay connected, and keep building the future.